large helicopters. Well, you were seeing one of those very large IDF helicopters coming into land here. Now we're looking at those live pictures from Gaza City and the 4 Israeli female hostages, Daniela Gilboa, Liri Albag, Karina Ariev, and Naama Levy, flanked by Hamas fighters, their faces covered, wearing the green bandanas of Hamas and combat fatigues, in a show of force, a deliberate show of force by Hamas to show Israel, to show the world, but also to show Gazans that they are not defeated. Despite 15 and a half months of war, they remain an active force in Gaza. These are pictures that will not please the Israelis. The Israeli government was not happy at the way it was the release was conducted last week. It does look like this week it is being conducted in a slightly more orderly fashion. You have crowds there, but you don't have the crowd immediately surrounding and even standing, climbing on top of the vehicles. But they are parading those 4 hostages. Television cameras, very aware of the image that it sends around the world. But those 4 women have just climbed into the Red Cross vehicles, and so it looks as though the processing part of this handover is complete as the Red Cross, the white Red Cross jeeps do start to move slowly through the crowd. This is in Gaza City, a central square in Gaza City. We think the same location where the handover happened last week. And Hamas has now released to the Red Cross the 4 female Israeli hostages that they announced would happen last night. A reminder, Liri Albag, a 19-year-old, 20-year-old Daniela Gilboa, Karina Ariev, and Naama Levy, also both 19 years old. They were all taken from the same military base, Nahal Oz, close to where I'm standing now. They were surveillance officers, observation officers working on the Nahal Oz base, right on the Gaza-Israeli border, when they were kidnapped on October the 7th. Liri's mother, Shira, last heard from her at 6:30. Liri texted her to say that she was taking cover from rockets. Her mother heard no more from her. She went to hospital in Beersheba, a town not far from here, to try and find her. She failed to find her, and she only learnt when she got back home from a Hamas video that her daughter had been kidnapped. Those Red Cross vehicles now making their way through pretty large crowds that have gathered in Gaza City, and they will now drive close to where I'm standing now. They'll drive to the border between Israel and Gaza and then hand over the 4 women into the care of the Israeli military. And there's 3 transport helicopters waiting here. They will take them to hospital near Tel Aviv. But before that happens, the families of the 4 hostages are at this base ready to greet them. They'll also go through medical checks here to make sure that they are physically okay, making sure they don't have any immediate emergency medical needs to be treated before they are taken to hospital. But of course, the process of recovery, the process of being reintroduced to the freedom that they will now be able to enjoy, well, that take a long time. We know from the 3 hostages that were released last week, Romy Gonen, Doron Steinbrecher, and Emily Damari, we know that they are still in hospital, they are still recovering. They're said to be doing well. I was speaking to some of their relatives only this week, and they say they're doing well, but it's taking time, and that will go for all of the hostages who are released from Gaza. And you can see now there on the split screen, Hostage Square in Tel Aviv, hundreds gathering there as they did last week, watching these events on a big screen in the square, everybody not daring to quite hope that the release will happen until they see these pictures. And the relief last week when they saw the 3 hostages alive in the back of a Red Cross car was palpable through that square as I stood in that square. But we're seeing now on the left of your screen those images from Gaza City. I've lost track of where the Red Cross vehicles are, but they were making their way through the crowds quite slowly as they drive out of that square, out of Gaza City. Was Gaza's largest city, now most of it completely destroyed through the bombing of the last 15 and a half months, as is much of Gaza, flattened, demolished. People have been returning home since the ceasefire kicked in last Sunday. People in Gaza have been returning home or trying to return home and finding that their homes no longer exist.